Hey, I'm McDonald, your real estate agent with Real Property Associates. And today's question that every home buyer should ask is, what is a counteroffer? I mentioned in the previous video a little bit about how to make an offer and what that process looks like. Now I want to answer the other part of the process. How do I make that counteroffer? Now, I mentioned previously that a buyer is going to make their initial offer and kind of set the anchor for the negotiation, and then the seller is going to have the opportunity to respond back. And that response is actually called a counteroffer. It's a new offer from the seller to you as the buyer. If you're the buyer in this situation, you also have the opportunity to accept the terms as laid out by the seller, the new terms in their counteroffer, or you have the opportunity to make a new offer as well. You can make a counteroffer back to them. So you start off with this clean contract and potentially can have lots of scratches and initials, some scribbles, some new things written down. And that's that process of offer, counteroffer, back and forth. Real estate transactions generally work this way. And what you're working for, I mentioned this before, is mutual acceptance. So as the buyer, you do have the right to make a counteroffer, just like the seller does. You don't have to accept their new terms. You also have the opportunity to present alternative terms as well. So this negotiating process is supposed to be one where you're working together. And I always advise clients to go into that process collaboratively, because what you're trying to do is reach an agreeable solution, an agreement. You're trying to find a place where you both agree. Now, as the buyer, you want to capture as much of the pie as possible. And as the seller wants to capture as much of the pie as possible. So what you need to do, and what you and your real estate agent need to talk about, are how can we make our initial offer to kind of make the biggest land grab up front, but do that in a way that's respectful. But then what are some of those ways that we can start crossing off terms or changing things to still make it favorable for you, but also make it agreeable for the seller?